Iron Man's comic book origin is awesome, pretty ridiculous at times, and a little bit problematic. With the Vietnam War set as the background, Stan Lee set out to create a comic book superhero that would go against the spirit of the time. A hero that literally everyone would hate. A rich industrialist womanizer who was also a weapons manufacturer for the military, but was vulnerable because he had a literal broken heart. What Stan Lee ended up creating was one of the most iconic superheroes in comic books, or at least the most iconic in my life. Iron Man. With Stan Lee as the editor, Larry Lieber as the main story and scriptwriter, the art was split between Jack Kirby, who drew the cover and splash page, subsequently creating the very first Iron Man armor, and Don Heck, who was the artist for the entire story of the actual comic. Stan Goldberg and Artie Simek rounded out the team as colorist and letterer respectively. And in March 1963, Tales of Suspense Volume 1, Issue 39 would be Iron Man's debut issue. Tales of Suspense number 39 begins in a closely guarded building where we meet Anthony, aka Tony Stark, showing off his new invention to the US military defense officials. Stan Lee famously based the character of Tony Stark on Howard Hughes, the famous American business magnate. Now, Don Heck actually based the actual look of Tony on Errol Flynn, the famous film star who was the premier swashbuckler of the 1930s. It was Lee's intent to basically create a superhero that everyone would hate, and I quote, "Shove him down everyone's throat and make them like him." I would say it worked. I mean, at least it worked for me. With Tony's hand on the microtransistor, he says, "General, you will see my tiny transistor increase the power of the small magnet so tremendously that it will open that locked vault." Once Tony turns the microtransistor on, the general then says, "The door, it's beginning to budge." Tony then responds, "Naturally. My tiny transistors are so powerful that, the vault beginning to bend, they can increase the force of any device 1,000-fold, while the vault loudly cracks open in half." Tony then says, "Now do you believe that the transistors I've invented are capable of solving your problem in Vietnam?" The general responds saying, "Stark, after what I've seen, I'm ready to believe anything." The caption then says, "Yes, it was an amazing demonstration, but now let's learn more about the man whose genius made it possible. Let us learn more about Anthony Stark, the one who was fated to become Iron Man." The caption continues over 2 panels explaining how Tony Stark is both a sophisticate and a scientist, a millionaire bachelor as much at home in a laboratory as in high society, yet he is soon destined to become the most tragic figure on Earth. We are then taken to the South Vietnam jungle where we meet the menacing tyrant Wong Chu, defeating a small village's strongest men in a contest of judo. Meanwhile, Tony Stark arrives on the outskirts of the Vietnam jungle to observe a successful battle testing of his microtransistor-powered weaponry. Following the squad of American soldiers, Tony accidentally triggers a tripwire that detonates, a booby trap, if you will. He is then taken to Wong Chu's headquarters. Okay, before we head to Wong Chu's headquarters, I would like to share with you the problematic part of this comic. The stereotypical writing and the depiction of Vietnamese characters. I know it was the 1960s, and yes, I also know Stan Lee might have apologized for the setting later, but that's no excuse for having all of the non-white characters speaking in a phonetic stereotype and drawing them with overly slanted eyes. It's legitimately racist and completely not needed. So for this video, and literally any video on this channel moving forward, especially when I'm recapping old comics, I won't be reading the dialogue in its phonetic stereotype style. Now, back in his headquarters, Wong Chu says he is a famous Yankee inventor. How is he? One of his red gorillas says that Tony has a lot of shrapnel nearing his heart and cannot live longer than 1 week, and once that happens, nothing can save him. Wong Chu then responds, "We can use his genius. Wong Chu will trick him into spending his last days on Earth working for us." He then turns to Tony and says, "We know that you are an American's weapons inventor. If you design a powerful new weapon for me, afterward, I will have a surgeon save your life." Tony is too smart for this trick and realizes that he could use Wong Chu's resources to create a weapon to escape and defeat Wong Chu. So Tony agrees. Wong Chu gives Tony access to scrap metal and tools, and Stark promises he will deliver a fantastic weapon, but starts the creation of a mechanism that will help stop the shrapnel from penetrating his heart. Then, on the second day of Tony Stark's race against time, Wong Chu shoves an old man into Tony's room and says, "This old one is Professor Yinsen. He was once a great scientist. Now he's a lowly manservant of Wong Chu, and he will help you build your weapon." After Tony realizes he read Professor Yinsen's book in college, the caption reads, "No longer able to work in secret, Anthony Stark must reveal his plan to the aged scholar, the only human he dares trust." Professor Yinsen responds by saying, "An Iron Man, fantastic. A mighty electronic body to keep your heart beating after the shrapnel reaches it. We just might succeed. Think what a creature we could create, what wonders he shall perform." The race against time continues as Tony and Yinsen create the iron bodysuit with the chest plate that will keep Tony alive through the use of transistor-powered magnets. But suddenly, while Yinsen is assembling the iron bodysuit, a warning light flashes, and he says, "It must be Wong Chu. If he enters now, all of our work will have been in vain. Wong Chu must be kept away until the mighty electronic body begins to power the heart of Anthony Stark." To buy more time for Tony, Yinsen runs out into the hallway shouting, "Death to Wong Chu! Death to the evil tyrant!" And then bang! Yinsen is shot dead. Wong Chu says, "Drag him away." Yinsen's sacrifice bought the precious seconds needed to charge the suit, as Tony thinks to himself, "You will not have died in vain, my friend. I swear it. The Iron Man swears it." With transistors at full power, Tony Stark stands from the table and takes his first steps, stumbling to the floor as he realizes he has to learn to walk again as the fully armored Iron Man. But he quickly learns how to operate the armor. Tony hears Wong Chu yelling while trying to break down the door and thinks to himself, "They're coming. This is my greatest test. Can this thing I have created survive? The thing which is less human, yet far more than merely human? This thing which is now Anthony Stark?" As Wong Chu is about to break into the room, Tony snaps back to reality and leaps to the ceiling and holds himself there using suction cups, effectively evading Wong Chu. Yeah, this big, giant, bulky Iron Man decides to use suction cups to hide in the dark corner of a ceiling. Man, comic books. Iron Man then finds a coat and hat after coming down from the ceiling and wanders outside to find Wong Chu. Iron Man challenges Wong Chu to a judo match. Yeah, legitimately, a judo match. Then takes off his coat and hat to shockingly reveal Iron Man. While picking up Wong Chu, Iron Man says, "You are not facing a wounded, dying man now, or an aged, gentle professor," as he spins Wong Chu above his head. Again, this stuff can only be written in comics. And as soon as Tony is done spinning Wong Chu like a helicopter, he tosses him into a bush and says, "This is Iron Man who opposes you and all you stand for." Then Wong Chu orders his guards to open fire on Iron Man, who then uses his suit's reverse magnetism to repel all of the enemy's weapons. Wong Chu runs to the nearest building and uses a giant speaker to place a bounty on Iron Man. Iron Man takes control of the speaker and tells all of Wong Chu's troops to flee before Iron Man slays them all. Wong Chu then tries to escape, and Iron Man, who is now low on energy and too weak to continue his pursuit, uses his armor's lubrication system to launch a stream of oil towards a bunch of ammunition, which he then, using a small torch from his armor, lights that stream of oil on fire, causing all of the ammo to explode and seemingly killing Wong Chu. The final panel shows Iron Man donning his coat and hat thinking, as for Iron Man, that metallic Hulk who once was Anthony Stark, who knows what destiny awaits him? Time alone will provide the answer. Time alone. And that's the origin of Iron Man. Comment down below and let me know what you thought of the OG Iron Man origin story. Marvel would later update this origin story, both the war and the place, 2 more times, but we'll cover that later on this channel. Please check out this video if you'd sacrifice yourself to save Tony Stark. Thank you so much for watching, and I love you 3000.